detail. The Malawi government has publicly expressed frustration with the manner in which security officials in South Africa treated President Lazarus Chakwera on departure last week. In a statement issued today, Foreign Affairs says Chakwera was subjected to a 7-hour departure delay because South African authorities subjected his team to undue security based on security reasons that were never communicated. Alex Banda has a full story.
President Lazarus Chakwera was expected back in Malawi on his 2-day working visit in South Africa on Friday night around 10 p.m. So against Malawians' expectation, the president arrived later in the wee hours on Saturday, followed by a State House clarification that the president had insisted on staying behind to allow his entourage to travel back together with him. This Monday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs has released a statement expressing dismay with how the South African government had treated the Malawi leader on his departure against how he was welcomed in the Rainbow Nation. The statement details how the Malawian delegation was subjected to heavy security checks by armed police officers at OR Tambo International Airport and waterproof military base where the president's jet had landed. It has transpired that the South African government had suspected that President Lazarus Chakwera was attempting to smuggle out of South Africa self-proclaimed Prophet Shepherd Bushiri and his wife. However, the South African government has cleared President Chakwera against accusations that he assisted Prophet Bushiri escape from South Africa. The statement by the Foreign Affairs was today also read by Executive Assistant to the President, Sean Kampondeni, during the weekly brief by the State House, which has bemoaned the undignified manner in which the South African government treated the Malawi leader.
State House Director of Information Sean Kampondeni says President Lazarus Chakwera will not interfere with the law enforcement in the handling of the matter of the flight of self-styled Prophet Shepherd Bushiri from law enforcement in South Africa. Speaking during this week's briefing at Kamuzu Palace, Director of Communications Sean Kampondeni said the President will let the issue be handled by the law enforcement agencies as it is a law enforcement matter. John Pokayuni has more.
Kamuzu Palace has made it clear President Lazarus Chakwera will let the law take its course by not involving himself in the extradition process of fugitives Prophet Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary to South Africa, where they boarded from last week amid their trial on fraud and money laundering allegations. Director of Communications at Kamuzu Palace, Sean Kampondeni, told journalists during a weekly brief that President Chakwera will let the law enforcement agencies independently deal with the matter as it falls within their jurisdiction. Bushiri escaped from the Rainbow Nation, citing security concerns and that he wanted to seek Malawi government's intervention for him to have fair trial in the foreign nation. Kampondeni in the brief also confirmed that President Chakwera was delayed from leaving South Africa with 7 hours as South African authorities vigorously searched the team that accompanied the president. President Chakwera Press Secretary Brian Banda said the president has been talking to President Ramaphosa on the development but refused to divulge details. The South African government has since initiated a process to extradite Prophet Bushiri and his wife, who were released on court bail early last week. For Zodiac from Kamuzu Palace, this is John Paul Kayuni.
Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Ministry has acknowledged that self-proclaimed Prophet Shepherd Bushiri was issued a Malawi diplomatic passport as a respected religious leader. But the ministry's spokesperson, Rejoice Shumba, says such passports are no longer being issued to religious leaders due to change of government policy. She has also disputed claims that the minister responsible, Aizen Mkaka, met Bushiri in South Africa last week when he went to prepare President Lazarus Chakwera's 2-day state visit. Bushiri and his wife are accused of fraud and money laundering in South Africa, where they were granted bail on condition that, among others, they should not leave that country until prosecution is finalized. Shumba speaks with Gabriel Kamnomo.
Government decided to give diplomatic passports to religious leaders as a way of honoring or respecting them. As you are aware, our religious leaders travel to and from Malawi. They go to other countries to preach the gospel of God. So government at that time decided to give diplomatic passports to religious leaders as a way of honoring them or respecting them so that they should not have problems when they are going out of the country to preach the word of God. But I can also tell you now that the government stopped giving diplomatic passport to.
Why did government stop giving these respected leaders the diplomatic passport? It's
just a policy. You know, things change. That time it decided to give to religious leaders, and then things changed because of policy issues. Now the government decided to stop giving diplomatic passports to religious leaders.
But at what level of religious leadership was government giving out these diplomatic passports? Was it every religious leader?
No. You know, there are religious leaders that don't travel. But those that travel a lot are the ones that were given diplomatic passports.
In other words, if my pastor at my church, my priest at my church today wanted a passport at that time, you'd give them a diplomatic passport?
There was a process that was undertaken for a person to be given a diplomatic passport. It was not just anyhow. There was an assessment that government was undertaking before they gave it to a religious leader.
We understand that your minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, met this pastor in South Africa. Is this true? And if it's true, what was the meeting about?
The Minister of Foreign Affairs did not meet the said person.
The High Court in Lilongwe has adjourned to December 1 hearing of the case in which 4 Democratic Progressive Party DPP members are challenging the expansion from the party. The 4 DPP Vice President for the South, Conrad Nankuma, Secretary General Griselda Geoffrey, Treasurer General Japi Mhango, and a Member of Parliament Yusuf Ntenda are challenging the effecting of a decision to expel them from the party, a decision that was arrived by the party's Central Committee a month ago. A lawyer representing the Central Committee of DPP, Emmanuel Teo, has told us that the adjournment has been due to the busy schedule of his clients who are up and down, soliciting view from supporters as part of the party's function review drive. Government has considered that school dropout remains one of the major challenges in the country's education sector. Presenting a 2019-2020 education sector performance report in Lilongwe, Minister of Education Agnes Nyalonji cited over 25,000 girls and 17,000 boys who dropped out due to pregnancies, marriages, and poor facilities, among other causes. Education expert Dr. Steve Shara has since advised government to invest more in improving general economic stability of the sector. We have this report by Western Guda.
Education Minister Agnes Nyalonji says education standards have dwindled in the country for the past 25 years. She says it is disappointing that the country continues to register high cases of school dropouts among serious challenges rocking the education sector despite several interventions to improve education. On the other hand, the minister says global pandemic COVID-19 has also contributed to school dropout, especially among girls due to early marriages and pregnancies. She disclosed that in the 2019-2020 school calendar, 25,081 girls and 17,011 boys dropped out of school due to 10 pregnancies, early marriages, poor learning facilities, and lack of school fees, among other reasons.
Some of the reasons for failing to keep them is that we do not have enough classrooms, qualified teachers, hygiene facilities, water, sanitation facilities, and enough qualified teachers who are well accommodated, and that's very, very key also.
Commenting on this, an education expert, Dr. Steve Shara, feels improvement of education system depends not only on the establishment of educational institutions, but also on general economic stability.
We talk about learners going to the market, going to the villages and the parents, that's the poverty, which means families need to be economically stable and comfortable for their learners to go to school. Otherwise, the parents want the children to stay at home so they can help with the market because they need to eat. Learners can't go to school if there's no food at home.
According to the 2019-2020 Education Sector Performance Report, disparities between privileged and the vulnerable students is another contributing factor to the dwindling education system in the country. For Zodiac in Lilongwe, this is Western Guta reporting.
Still on education authorities in Kasungu have disclosed that diminishing of resource to fight COVID-19 in schools and inadequate space are some of the challenges learners are facing in schools in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Director of Education and Sports Anderson Mtandika says some schools are running out of the detergents in addition to high enrollment, forcing authorities to introduce double shifts. Meanwhile, Plan International Malawi has made a donation of buckets and radio sets to 78 schools in Kasungu North to support COVID-19 preventive measures in schools worth about 12 million kwacha. Mtandika speaks with Noam Kobwe.
We appreciate their support and we're very grateful because we are in need of buckets in our schools, as we have reduced class sizes, so we need a lot of those things.
What would you say are major challenges which you are facing towards implementing this in schools?
The major challenges, especially those schools which are overcrowded and have very few teachers, we have a very big problem there because we have to reduce the class size to about 40. And in most of the schools, we don't have enough classrooms to accommodate our learners. So what we have done in some of the schools is to introduce a double shift system.
In terms of availability of materials, how are the schools faring?
When we were opening schools, we had enough soap. We had to disinfect using chlorine. We had buckets, but they are now diminishing. So we need support. Maybe we'll be using the SIP, the grant school plans, to procure more detergents, soap, and the like.
And Kasungu Plan Malawi Program Area Manager,